Hi, today I'm going to do an update on all the super investors that I like to follow. I think it is pretty great that we can see what the best investors in the world are investing in. And honestly, I'm actually working on an investment strategy for a separate portfolio that just copies the buys and sells of the great investors. So right now, I'm actually studying these people really closely, trying to work out who I should listen to and pay more attention to. So I'll add my thoughts about the moves that were made by each of the investors today. These are the guys that I find interesting and have also actually made a move this quarter. For example, Charlie Munger did nothing, and that was the same for a handful of other investors, but normally I would be interested in what Charlie Munger at Daily Journal have been investing in. Okay, let's start with one of my favorite authors and investors, Mohnish Pabrai. I found Mohnish Pabrai about a year ago when I went through a period of reading a lot of investing books. The Dundo Investor is a great read, and I have followed Mohnish Pabrai ever since. In my opinion, he is a great thinker and someone who I really agree with regarding investing philosophy. So this table shows what's happened in the last quarter in Pabrai investment funds. And as you can see, they added a good amount to two already existing positions. Edelweiss Financial Services, which is an Indian-based financial services company, and Reysas Tasimacilik Lojistik, a Turkish logistics and warehousing company. Now, I haven't looked into either of these companies at all, so I know very little about them. Mohnish obviously thinks they are good investments as he owns about 7% of all of the shares of Edelweiss and about 30% of all the shares of that Turkish company. That is a very big confident investment, and I should take a look into these. Unfortunately, these are in the Indian and Turkish stock exchanges, making them pretty difficult to get access to. His one new buy is a company called Shinniken based in Japan. Now, I've done a lot of research into this company and have an entire video coming out soon about this investment. For those of you who don't know Michael Burry, he is famous for being based on the Christian Bale character in The Big Short. So he is a contrarian investor making often strange moves that more often than not turn out to be genius. But unfortunately for Burry, he had a big stake in GameStop and sold out just before the stock price went crazy a few weeks ago. We should give him a break on this as there was no way he could have predicted the Wall Street bets thing happening to GameStop. But he did miss out on like hundreds of millions of dollars here, so look, that sucks. Lumen Technologies is a telecom company and is the biggest holding in Burry's portfolio at the moment. Burry added to this position in the quarter. Now the second largest holding, as you can see, is a new buy, and it is Now Inc. or DNOW, which is an oil and gas equipment provider. There are more oil and gas related companies down the list as new buys, plus there's also Wells Fargo as a new buy. What I think a lot of people have overlooked here are two new bets into private prisons in the US. Geo Group and Core Civic are private prisons that, with the new government, have been getting a lot of bad publicity. It looks as though there are serious issues in private prisons and the government is cracking down on these. So to summarize, the new positions of Michael Burry, they are oil and gas, prisons, and Wells Fargo. This clearly shows how different Michael Burry is thinking compared to the rest of the world. I don't hear of anyone thinking these are good investment industries. He definitely provides some interesting contrarian ideas. Li Lu is a true long-term investor, famous for getting Charlie Munger to invest with him and showing the value of electric car maker BYD to Buffett and Charlie. His portfolio is concentrated and small. Just look at this portfolio. There's not many companies here and two of them are actually brand new. So the first new buy was Apple, which surprises me a lot as Li Lu is a long-term value investor and he obviously thinks Apple is a great long-term investment, even at the current price. I think the price is far too high personally, but interesting to see maybe he sees something in the future. He's a smart guy, smarter than me, so we'll just have to see what happens. Pinduoduo, this is a rapidly growing e-commerce player in China. Now Li Lu, being Chinese, has a good understanding of Chinese companies, and Pinduoduo is an interesting idea and something I might want to take a look at further. This is a good reason why I like to go through these super investors' updated positions. It is a great place to get ideas. So I think Seth Klarman is somewhere between Michael Burry and Warren Buffett on the scale of investors. Definitely a contrarian, but not to the same extent as Burry. He wrote the book called Margin of Safety. Therefore, he obviously likes to find companies undervalued. The significant new addition to his portfolio is Intel, where he reportedly bought in at about $49. Intel definitely is going through a difficult period at the moment, a lot of bad press and negative headlines about the operations of the company, especially back in Q4. Now, being a hardcore value investor, Seth obviously thinks this news will blow over Intel in the coming years and will be forgotten. I have looked at Intel before and they are in great financial shape. I was looking at about $40 as a price that was attractive to me. Maybe I have too much margin of safety. Another interesting thing that I see from Bourpost Group is a lot of SPAC purchases. They actually invested in 9 different SPACs for the quarter. Now basically, SPACs are a hot trade right now. What is happening is people are pooling their money together and having the owner of the SPAC go out and buy a company with all of that fund money. So generally, you buy a SPAC and the fund is worth, say, $10 a share, but you generally pay a little over that depending on how high profile the manager is. So far, what has been happening is that when the target company has been announced, the SPAC price jumps up in value because of this news. Investing in a SPAC is a bet on the manager finding a great company. So it is a little different to a normal stock investment where you analyze the company first. Again, this is a bet on the individual person finding a good company. Actually, Bourpost Group's 8th largest holding is the Bill Ackman run SPAC. So that is a big bet by Seth Klarman on Bill Ackman. David Einhorn is a little more of an activist investor. Greenlight Capital has lots of good ideas and companies that I have never heard of before. So it's a good hunting ground for stocks, but they also short stocks, which I personally don't like. Greenlight Capital has shorted Tesla and I can't imagine that has worked out very well. This is just too risky of a strategy for me. A few new buys this quarter with Denimer Scientific, which is a recent SPAC launched company that makes biodegradable plastic. Then Fubo TV, which is a live streaming sport and news service. And another interesting new buy was IPOC, the Chamath Palihapitiya SPAC that will turn into Clover Health. Now, Greenlight Capital is the only guru investor that I have seen so far that has actually invested in one of Chamath's SPACs. So plenty of interesting ideas for me to look into here. The Lone Pine Fund from Stephen Mandel definitely is focused less on contrarian ideas and more about the future. The top holdings include Shopify, Microsoft, Netflix. Actually, I think pretty much every company in the portfolio is tech. I think the biggest move in the quarter was a big purchase of Mercado Libre, the South American-based e-commerce giant. Now, I haven't looked into this company before, but maybe I'll go check this out. Lone Pine has had an incredible 10-year period, one of the best performing funds in the world, which makes sense with a focus on tech. David Tepper has been running Appaloosa for 28 years now, returning over 16% per annum returns. That is very impressive over a long period of time. Now, Appaloosa focuses on undiversified, concentrated, long-term investing. Top holdings include T-Mobile, Amazon, Micron, and Facebook. Now, they added more into Amazon and Facebook during the quarter, and the new buys for David Tepper are Occidental Petroleum and the Energy Select ETF. These are both a play on oil, so they must believe oil demand will return and the oil sector is undervalued. One of the best activist investors out there, Daniel Loeb and Third Point, used to invest in troubled companies, replace the management team, and then turn the company around. But the fund is also full of tech names as well. Now, Third Point sold a large piece of their stake in Pinterest in the quarter while adding a big stake to Alphabet. But the more interesting transaction was a big stake in a company called Upstart Holdings, which is an AI lending platform. Now, revenue has been growing very fast for this company and is something I'm going to have to take a look at. Okay, definitely no introduction needed here for Warren Buffett. Firstly, he has continued reducing his stake in Apple, which is actually a bit surprising because I always thought Buffett either sells something completely or just leaves it alone. I'm not really sure what's happening there. Secondly, the major purchase for the quarter was Verizon, the telecom service provider in the US. I actually don't know much about Verizon or any telecom communication companies, but Buffett obviously sees something here. I hope this gave you some ideas for your own portfolio. It is super interesting to see what the best investors are doing. I get a lot of this information from a website called Dataroma, so check it out yourself. Now, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. Hit me up in the comments if you have an opinion about any of these investors and what they are up to. And thanks for staying to the end, and I will see you in the next video.